All right, guys. I know nobody's here yet, but if you would please come back to the live stream. We are here. For some reason, my phone made it sideways for some reason. It's super strange. I don't know what was going on, but it had the orientation was locked vertically on the phone instead of horizontally. So that's kind of crazy. I'll wait for a few minutes to get people to come back on. If you would, if you're on here right now, while I get things set up, would you please leave a comment? Let me know where you're chiming in from. And if you have come over from the last live stream, that would be great. All right. William, what's going on from Oregon? Looks like we just got you hanging out with us. I don't know what happened to the other guys. I tried to quickly delete it. Ends Print says, there you go. Yeah, all right, Ends Print. So sorry about that. It literally, the phone was sideways, but it was locked in the vertical position. I have no idea. So yeah, man, super crazy. So I'm glad you guys are here on this one. But if we're gonna go over tonight, what we're gonna go over is called epoxy shrinkage or epoxy suckback. And all that really means is when you pour the epoxy and it heats up too quickly, has too much exothermic reaction. If it cures too quickly, especially with the casting epoxy, it wants to suck back or shrink much faster than if it sets up slower. Okay. Hello. I don't know that language, but hello. And so we're gonna go over that. I'm gonna show you what it looks like right here. Let's see here, guys. I'm gonna flip the screen around so you guys can see. Now, I don't know if you can see this part right here, but it's super low. We're talking like probably 3/16 or more. We have a little bit right here. Same thing. And that's what I mean by shrinkage or suck back, okay? What happens, and what happened to this one is I poured the slab over 2 inches thick. Now, Incredible Solutions epoxy, now this is the tabletop, this is different, but the casting epoxy, Incredible Solutions casting epoxy, it is designed to pour 2 inches thick, but that's kind of relative. A lot of people don't understand this, but it's kind of relative. And the reason why I say that is you could pour 2 inches thick, in a small 12 by 12 square, and you should be fine. But if you pour 2 inches thick over a massive piece, obviously it's going to create more heat and the potential for suck back or shrinkage. Okay, and Steve says hello from Northern Michigan. And so we're gonna live here. We're gonna show you how to fix that. Okay, and so I'm gonna get the camera set up so you guys can see. And then we'll start working on it, okay? Okay, you can really see the corner right here. You can see how it's super round. You can see where it shrunk back. Now, it's pretty simple. All we're gonna do is we're gonna take some Good View Woodworks tape, and we're going to wrap it around this piece right here. Now the goal here is not to get any kind of air bubbles, and we want to fold the edges underneath. Now we'll keep the top where it is. Okay. We're really wanting to burnish these edges down. So that way if the epoxy wants to leak through, we'll go ahead and it'll gives it a less chance of coming through on the underside. We want to do our best to have no wrinkles. We don't want anywhere for that epoxy to seep through. Okay. Sit it back over here. As you can see, we got it pretty tight up against there, and that's all we need. We're only going to be pouring just a little bit in here, and a little bit in here. All right, now what we want to do first before we start mixing up some epoxy is you want to take some sandpaper and you just want to scuff up this little edge right here, okay, where we're going to be sanding. Where we're going to be pouring the epoxy. And that's just to give it some mechanical adhesion. Okay. All right. So now we're going to mix up a little bit of epoxy. We're going to use the Incredible Solutions tabletop epoxy. Here's the hardener, and here's the tabletop epoxy. Now this is mixed at a 1-to-1 ratio, and we're not going to do very much. We're only going to do about, we really only need like 2 ounces, but I think what we're going to do instead is I'm going to mix up about 8 ounces because I have another little project that I'm going to pour some coasters, and so I'll be able to use it up, okay? So I'm going to pour 4 ounces of hardener. And then I'm going to pour 4 ounces of epoxy. You can tell how much thicker the tabletop stuff is compared to the casting epoxy. right, we'll go ahead and mix it up. That might be a little shaky here. Hold on, give me a second. All right, we're gonna go ahead and mix this stuff up. Like I said, we're not gonna be using a whole lot of it. It's much easier to get air bubbles mixed in when you're using tabletop epoxy because it's so much thicker. But you don't have to really worry about that because you can always torch them out or heat them up with a heat gun and get the air bubbles out. So we're just gonna mix for a couple minutes. You don't need to really go ham with it either. You can just work slowly. Make sure you scrape the edges and the bottom the whole entire time that you're mixing. Where are you guys chiming in from? My GoPro just turned off for some reason. I don't know why. How you guys doing this evening? Hopefully we can get some good live video for you tonight. Sorry about the shaky camera. All right, we should be good. Well, Bruce, Australia, man, that is a long ways away. What time is it over there in Australia? All right, so I'll set the camera down right here, and then we'll go ahead and tilt it so you guys can see. Hopefully you guys can see. We're gonna do this side right here first. And like I said, we're only gonna be using a little bit of epoxy, nothing crazy. Just take our stir stick, go out like this, get it filled up. It's as simple as that. Do the same thing on this side. See, it really doesn't take a whole lot. All right, I'm gonna flip it around so you guys can see. Now, if you can tell, there's a lot of bubbles in the tabletop epoxy. We're gonna go ahead and let it set up. And then ultimately, the goal is once this sets up, we can sand it down flat and you will kind of get rid of that suck back. You don't need to use the same color that you use unless it's opaque. So that's what's going to help here. I'm not going to do this corner, and that's because we're going to do a 1/4 inch round over on the top. And so it'll get rid of that right there. But we really did need to get these right here. And if you guys can tell, it's not seeping under the tape, and that's what we want. We're using the tape as a barrier, and we don't want it to seep under, and should be perfectly fine. All right, so the very next step, and this is super easy, man, I tell you, all it takes is just a little bit of know-how for you to for people to figure out how to fix these mistakes. And I think that's the biggest part of the epoxy learning game, is fixing mistakes. So we're gonna go over here in the shop, grab the heat gun. I always forget something, I tell you. Hard part is, never know where I leave these things. So anyways, looks like somebody else is using it. Here we go, right here. We'll go ahead and get the heat gun set up. If you guys have any questions, please leave them down here. I'll do my best to get to them while we're working. And right after we get done popping these bubbles, what I'll do is I'm gonna sit down and I'll go through and start answering everyone's questions, okay? Do like a Q&A type deal. Now, it says, Ins Print, do you know the science as to why high heat breaks the bubbles? Yeah, I think so. So essentially, kind of like how high heat and evaporation works. It makes the air expand when you heat it up, and it makes it want to rise to the top. I think that's about as easy as you can get, especially if you're using a torch, right? Fire consumes oxygen. Same thing, it makes it pop the bubbles. Just like the heat, once the bubbles expand and it pushes to the surface. That's pretty much how it works. If I'm wrong, I think that I'm right, but if I'm wrong, somebody else can let me know. The tip with using the heat gun, though, is we don't want to get too close to the tape because it can kind of make the tape shrink, okay? So here we go. I'm going to try to pop these bubbles. See it starting to clear up. We'll let these bubbles rise to the surface. Do the same thing over here. And the trick is, you're not going to get them every single time. So what you do is just heat it up, let it sit for a few minutes, 5 minutes or so, and then come back and pop them again. This tabletop stuff's not going to set up. It'll probably set up in 45 minutes or so, so you have time to just come back, heat the bubbles up, get them to the surface. But you want to come back every 5-6 minutes and just heat them up a little bit to get all the bubbles out. That's the goal, because they will continue to rise to the surface. Okay, so it's been a couple, I don't know, 1 minute or so, so we're gonna do it again. Bruce says, Nate is in a t-shirt and I'm in a coat. I gotta clean up tree limbs for the farmer, then I can get the wood off their property. Yeah, I'm in a t-shirt because here it's like 70 degrees. It's like 70 degrees today. It's really nice. 70 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, let's pop these bubbles. All right, you see those little bubbles? Those are superficial. Those are at the very surface. When I sand, they will come out. Got all the ones out of that one. So that's nice. Okay. There we go. Look at that. Plenty of room to sand. And now our suck back is fixed. And it looks perfect. So we're going to let this set up. And then we'll go ahead and it allows you to finish, which we are almost done with our coffee table. The only thing that's left is the finish. And excuse me, of course I got to sand the sides and the bottom, but sanding and finishing is all I have left. And then I can get to building the legs, which we have coming up. So I'm going to walk over to the computer so I can start reading some comments, because I want to get to your guys' comments. Hopefully this small tip will help you out in the future. It's worked for me. What does stink is, you have to wait 12 hours or overnight or whatever, but that's the only thing. So let me go ahead and refresh and get this thing all set up here. All right, so get my camera set up here, and then I will if it would stay still. All right, there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and get to some comments. All right, so I want to say hello to William, Jason, Bruce, Steve, and there's a person from Kazakhstan. So Kazakhstan. So hello. Later says hello says hello from the suburb of Indy. Jeremy says you need a mic. Yeah, I know, dude. I have a lavalier mic, but I don't have the right software to run everything yet. So that's the thing I'm working on. Jennifer says, hey, Nathan and good viewers, happy Tuesday. And Bruce says, damn, Nate, you always come on when I have to leave the house. I do catch up later. Yeah, sorry, dude. 7:15 works best for me. In's Print has a great question. He says, does grit matter? And we're talking about the sandpaper. When we scuffed it up to get mechanical adhesion, the answer is yes and no. You really just want to get a really good sanding to make it look foggy on the surface. I recommend 150 to 220 area. You don't want the scratches to be too deep. Like if you don't want to use like 60 grit or 80 grit or anything like that. But between 150 and 220 work well. But then if you go higher, like 320, I just don't think the scratches are deep enough. So you do have some wiggle room in there. Hopefully that answers your question. Bruce says, should have sanded before the tape. Yes, of course, there's always many ways to do it. It's not going to matter because I have to still sand that side, and I got a 1/4 inch round over there, so it's not going to be a big deal there. But it would make it a little easier, wouldn't it? Aaron Hungate says, title sounds fun, suck back. It's in a pro, okay? Bruce says from Australia. Ray. What's up, Ray? From ILL, I guess. I don't know. It looks like 3. It looks like 3. Roman numeral 3. Bruce says 9:15 a.m. in Australia. And Bruce says it's cold over there in Australia. Aaron Hungate says, Bruce, I have some friends in Victoria. We always laugh because when we talk, we both complain about the complete opposite. In's Print had a good question. We answered that a little bit earlier about the science as to why high heat breaks the bubbles. Aaron says, I finally purchased a pressure pot for my epoxy. It holds 5 gallons. I can't wait to finish my orders now so I can get used to it. Got it at Woodcraft. Yeah, they started to really up their game when it came to the pressure pots. I noticed in the past week or so when I was doing a class up there, and it looked like they really started getting some more epoxy stuff in. They also had Alumilite deep pour. Have you guys used the Alumilite deep pour? I haven't yet. It says that you can pour 2 inches thick, but the setup time is Actually pretty quick. Jennifer says, congrats, Aaron. That's on my wish list too. Jennifer says it's 70s in New Hampshire today. That's awesome. 30 in Indy says later. Bruce says, Nate, do you get your own wood from the paddock? I don't know how to say that word, or just buy in. So, can you, I don't know. I don't know what that word means. But I'm going to be doing a video. Actually, a video is coming out this week on where I get the lumber that I use from. And excuse me. I just had a company reach out to me. They're actually going to be bringing in a slab. It's from Virginia, but he reached out to me on YouTube or Instagram, and they're going to be bringing some slabs, and it's pretty cool. There's starting to be a lot more and more places to get slabs, so I'm really excited about that. We're going to pick up some ash, and this ash is like highly figured, which is really cool. I think we're going to be doing our headboard for our bed, so I think that's going to be really nice. Ray says Illinois. Okay, gotcha. Carrie Hirschberger says from Ewardsburg, Michigan. Did I say that right, Carrie? I'm glad you guys are chiming in. This one was actually a pretty quick little tip, but it worked out because I needed to have that done. I gotta sand that thing tomorrow and start getting legs built. Which brings me to the next thing. I'm going to be building the legs from scratch, and we're using 1/2-inch square tube. So it's going to be a really small square tube, but I have this crazy kind of design, and I mean, crazy design. It's not super crazy, but if you guys can imagine it, it's going to be a diamond shape on the floor. And so the points of the diamond will meet up in the middle of each of the sides of the coffee table. So that part will be on the floor, and then from the points up to where it meets the top, there are going to be V's on every side to meet up to the corners. There'll be another square frame underneath the table, flat steel that I can weld to, and then this will all be, I think we're going to go with gold. I'm not sure. So so that's what's also what's coming up in the Goodview Woodworks channel. Also, a friend of mine reached out to me, and we're going to be doing the beehive here soon. I don't know how soon yet, but I'm definitely going to be we're going to place a large beehive, and we're going to stabilize it and turn it down on the lathe. And I think that'll be really cool. Maybe do a couple of bowls or something like that. So Aaron Hungate says, is the coffee table the clear pour with the worldwide burl piece? Yes, that's it. So that one it's kind of like has a blue tint to it, silvery blue tint, but you'll be able to see all the way through it. We're still not gonna do a glossy finish, but we will do like an oil finish, because I really like an oil finish. But I think we're gonna go with Osmo or Odie's oil or something like that instead of Rubio. And the reason is, with the Rubio monocoat, it kind of stays like a satin finish, and I want something just a little bit higher sheen, and so I can add more coats and buff it up to just a slightly higher finish. Aaron Hungate has used some other finishes. Aaron, if you're still watching, what oil finish did you say last week that you were using these days? Den Bird says, any tips on a DIY slab flattening setup? Yeah, and I have one. It took me 30 minutes to build, 30 minutes to an hour to build. Very, very simple. All I did was I got some 3/4 inch MDF, because it's still kind of cheap. And I essentially made a long piece of angle bracket. So I made a 6-inch tall side and a 6-inch wide piece, glued and screwed it together to make a really long angle. So I made 2 of those, and that way you can set it up on some sawhorses. Anyway, those are your guide rails. And then I made a box out of the same 3/4 inch MDF, and the sides of the box stick down past the bottom. And that box the router sits in and goes across. Super simple. And if you're not going to be doing this all the time, that's an easy one to use to plane some small stuff down. I planed even a huge 96-inch table with it. Now, if you're going to be doing this all the time, I'd recommend either purchasing one or trying to construct one out of some extruded aluminum or steel. But it works for, you know, I've done, I don't know, 5 or 10 tables with it, and it works really well. So Aaron Hungay says he's hardcore Odie's oil. So I think maybe I'll try some Odie's oil. Bruce says paddock means out in the forest or out in the bush or out back. So, okay, so no, I never go out and cut the trees down. I'm not that good yet. That's a whole craft in its own. But you know what? I would like to experience, though. I think it'd be pretty cool to do that. So I don't do that now, but I totally could do that. At least once, right? Smack Evans says, "How is everyone doing?" And Inns Princess Smack, we're super. Thanks for asking. Bruce, I'm sorry that you keep losing sound. It could be the warehouse that I'm in, and with the internet situation. But we're gonna try to work that out. Guys, if you have any other questions, and if you want to support this channel, I don't know if you saw in the last live stream, I had a comment that says, no more super chats. And the reason why is YouTube changed their terms of service, but I've noticed that when you guys are giving super chat, I'm not really seeing it in my like estimated revenue or whatever, and that's because YouTube is now taking 53% of the super chats, and the creators are only getting like 47%. 53, yeah, 47%. So it's kind of, you know, if you guys want to support, don't do it that way, because ultimately you're supporting YouTube and not the creator. So if you want to support me, you can go to patreon.com/goodviewwoodworks and set up over there. That one I'm trying to do my best to get pictures, you know, more personal life stuff over there, and so that way you guys can see kind of what's going on in personal life and outside of the Good View stuff, but also some of the projects ahead of time, okay? Aaron Hungate says, I always recommend to call Odie's Oil directly to ask questions. They're great. However, anyone can message me for tips. I use every one of their products from satin to high gloss with high grit. That's awesome. Inns Prince says, how are the kiddos? Kiddos are great. Baby boy's doing awesome, and so is baby girl. Baby girl learned the word no in the past 2 weeks. And all of a sudden she has her own opinions now. Which is a quest all on its own. And so the other day is like, hey, what do you want for dinner? Would you like some spaghetti? No. You want some pickles? No. Turkey? No. Chicken? Actually, it wasn't no. It's no. And so, yeah, it's getting crazy. Hopefully she'll learn yes and no. That way we can get something besides no. Inns Prince says 53%, so not worth it. Yeah, total crazy. Smack Evans says, Nathan, come to Colorado. I'll let you cut a tree down and mill it. Hey, dude, that would be awesome. Bruce says, hi, my wife's hearing aids keep picking up the video sound. She was on the toilet listening to Nate. So funny. Gross. Inspiration says, oh my goodness, my 17-month-old just learned no 2 days ago. So much attitude. I know, right? You're like, where's his attitude been? Same thing with me, though. Esther is a diva, for sure. The other day, my wife was talking to her, and she kind of walked past and did like the side eye and just kept on going. You're like, where did you learn that from? Because you didn't learn that from us, I guarantee. Oh, man. All right, guys. Well, look, tonight was fun. I'm going to cut it now. Like I said, if you guys want to head over to Patreon and support over there, that would be great. Inspiration says Esther. Love that name. Yeah, it's a biblical name. We chose it because of what that name represents. If you guys don't know, Esther in the Bible, she stood up for her people in front of the king. And so it has a lot of meaning to it, especially with Esther. And so she's our lovely little daughter, and she's going to be, you know, she's already has so much attitude, just like Esther in the Bible. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and call it for the night. Thank you so much. Thanks for hanging out with us, right? And I really appreciate you guys coming in on Tuesday nights. Awesome. Sorry about the hiccup that we had early on. I don't know what that was about, why it locked it, even though I had it horizontally the whole time. But you guys are awesome. I love you. Love you all, and I will catch you on the flip side, all right? Good night, guys.